Good afternoon. My name is Lester David. I am a CNA in this hospital, and I am having a presentation regarding immigrants and refugees. A refugees are forced to leave their home countries because of war, environmental disasters, and political persecution and/or ethnic intolerance. So basically, it's like the Syrian refugees, where they have a war-torn country and they have to leave. And guess what? They're invited in their own country, and it's our obligation as humans to help other humans escape unforeseen hardships. And immigrants, they are joining family members who already live in this country. Me, like my I have family here 10 years ago, and they helped us to get to this country, and my mother is a nurse. That's why she is an economic immigrant. She seeks work for a better life for themselves and my family and her family, which I'm so lucky to have a mother like that to help me get to this great country of ours 12 years ago. And there is issues concerning language between immigrants and refugees. English is not an immigrant and refugee's first language. So I'm Filipino and I speak Tagalog first and another dialect. It was really hard. And can you imagine a refugee that was in a war-torn country with less education and less access to English classes? That's why they're having a hard time. And and a refugee and an immigrant, their issue is that it's a barrier in the communication in their new community. And immigrants, it's their choice to be in their own community. That's why they're having a hard time with their language. It's their choice, but the refugees are only with their refugees because they're in their own camps and things of that nature. And another bad thing about language is the language barrier is that seeking job opportunities will be limited to their own communities. So they can't speak English, so they're just gonna look around their community. Does that make sense to you? And and for us in this, communicating in their healthcare will be a little bit challenging. It's really hard to convey in our language of healthcare, and then they're having a hard time with English. So that's going to be a real challenge for them. And current findings in acculturation is that English language proficiency experience less stress in the acculturation process, just like what I said. You know, if they acculturate in their language, they're not gonna have a hard time communicating in their healthcare and they're seeking their job opportunities. Refugees' literacy in their native language is related to their ability to learn other written language in their country. Basically, if they have access to it, like there are immigrants like my mother who's already educated, they already know how to do the language, and there are some immigrants that can't, and there's some refugees that can't. So the solution is for resettlement agencies and local organizations can find further support language acquisition by offering intensive English classes during the initial settlement. So if the resettlement agencies and other organizations, they help with the language classes, all the problems that we've been talking about from looking for a job and having communication with healthcare will not be as prevalent, but it's also a step-by-step process. And we can put this all together with cultural humility. It's a process of communal reflection, analyze the root causes of suffering, and create a broader, more inclusive of the world. Three principles: lifelong learning and critical self-reflection. The change to understanding other culture comes from us. We need to reflect. What's going on? What's what's the difference between a Muslim refugee, just a refugee? We have to reflect. We have to look on why. We have to ask these questions. and we need to be recognizing and changing power imbalances, which means if we see somebody mistreating someone, we have to see it. We can't deny it. We have to address it. And the next one is developing institutional accountability. We need to tell our government, our work, or whatever we are, that these things are happening where where refugees or immigrants or whoever are getting mistreated. We need to get them accountable, from our government to our work and everywhere else. And I will leave you with a couple of quotes. A lasting solution, the possibility to begin a new life, is only dignified solution for the refugee. Again, we do not have to feel sorry for the refugees. We need to help them. As Paul Hartling, a former Prime Minister of Denmark. And remember always that all of us, and you and I especially, are descended from immigrants and revolutionists. By Franklin D. Roosevelt, our 32nd President of the United States. We are all immigrants. We need to help each other. And he said it best there. And for any information, this website by Miss Vivian, Miss Chavez Vivian, this YouTube 30-minute video, it will explain cultural humility in detail. Very, very amazing. It's a San Francisco based documentary, and this is where I got the about the language acquisition, the acculturation, and with the Bhutanese and the Burmese and the Iraqi refugees, and the DOI number is this one right here, and the rationale of me talking about how to interpret language barriers is done by this website in St. Kate's. It will put you in the mindset of what I was just talking about, and another one is what's the difference between immigrants and refugees. It's a PBS website. Yes, it is a website, and it will give a brief description about immigrants and refugee differences. If you have any questions, I'm available for question and answer, and hopefully you have a good information with this. Thank you. Have a nice day.